What's up, cool kids? FD White. So a couple days ago, I had the privilege of bringing over YouTube sensation Keith D, who went from about 500 subscribers when I first found him. Right now, he has about 80,000 subscribers. So once you watch our video, our conversation, you can see why. He's very knowledgeable, very down to earth, very humble, and you can see that he's done his homework, done his due diligence, and I think it's a very, very, very good conversation for you to listen to in its entirety. Make sure you give me a like. Make sure you give me a subscribe. Let me know if Keith D sent you over. At the beginning, my video quality was a little bit wonky, but the audio was amazing. And like I said, the alpha is amazing. So get your pens and pads out. And without further ado, this is FD White and Keith D. Enjoy. I want to segue into the meat of the discussion, man. This is a pretty much a crypto channel. I talk about stocks, I talk about macro, but I want to talk about crypto. I want to start off with crypto. A lot of people are here for that. Bitcoin. So I want to talk about short-term price action right now. So we just had Jackson Hole. We were waiting at this level around 112K, looking to see what Bitcoin wanted to do, looking to see what Jerome Powell was going to say. He came out very dovish today. We're probably going to get those rate cuts coming in mid-September. Where do you see Bitcoin going? I'm not really a price prediction, but let me rephrase it. Do you believe in the 4-year cycle? We can go like that, because if you do believe in the 4-year cycle, then you believe at the end of the year, the tail end of the year, we'll get some sort of a massive run up going into a bear market. What do you think is going to happen short term? And I mean, like within the next 3 to 6 months?
I think the question there is a fantastic question. Are there 4-year cycles? And so far, right, it kind of seems like that's the case. Now, the other thing that has happened so far from what I've looked at is that the business cycle has also very well aligned with these bull markets that we've had. And so has it been the halving cycle that's been driving the prices in the market, or has it been the business cycle that has been driving prices in the crypto market, or could it be a little bit of both, right? And if it is a little bit of both, then right now what we're seeing is that the business cycle has not continued to tick up the way that it has in the previous 4 years or the previous cycles. And so with that being the case, could we have a little bit of a wonky, journey to getting up to the highs of this bull market that might take more than the next 3-4 months and goes out into the next year or so? It's possible, right? That's one thing for sure that I've learned being in this market, is that I have no idea what's going to happen, and
Yeah.
and I don't make my plans contingent upon me knowing what's going to happen next. And I think that's what's also important, is being able to play out different scenarios and preparing yourself for those different scenarios.
How do you manage, friends and family, even on YouTube? How do you manage to get the point across to different people, talking about why Bitcoin, not just the price of Bitcoin as an investment, but why Bitcoin as it comes to like the macro environment and things like that?
It's an important question. It really is, because when people come to me with that kind of mentality, I shut it down. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
I very much so shut it down if it's like price go up and down. I'm very quick to tell you that you need to really study like what's going on, and then we can talk about price go up, down, where to buy, this and that, because I think that also plays a big role in what that's going to determine your time frame, is whether or not you actually understand what's occurring and how to play this game. And so, as far as understanding why Bitcoin, I think the first thing that I always try to level with and try to understand is whether or not someone's aware of the money printing situation, right? Like, do you understand the fact that there is an increasingly inflating amount of fiat currencies, not only here in the US, but also all around the world? Are you familiar with the concept of the fiat monetary regime, at least? And then once that is established and you understand the importance of investing your money, period, wherever it may be, then we can move into the whole Bitcoin having a limited supply in a world of ever inflating supply of currencies. And then I think from there, I try to anchor down into the mining concept, right?
Yeah.
Like, why does Bitcoin have any value? And so first off, you have a network that is secure and that can be used by anyone in the world, and that is essentially supported by this mining situation where people are giving up real world resources in order to create this Bitcoin and to bring it into circulation. Much like someone who's mining gold has to give up resources. They have to pay for people to go and mine the gold. They have to pay for the picks and the shovels. And so if people are willing to invest that money, they're going to look for a return. And now that's not the only reason why Bitcoin has value, but it does support that if you wanted to call it intrinsic value of this network, where people are putting in real world resources like energy,
Yeah.
which keeps people alive, right, in order to maintain and create this new cryptocurrency.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So once people can, or even try, that's a good point that you said. They have to try to figure out why, and it's hard because it was hard for me. My first cycle was 2020 coming in, and it was just like price go up, price go up, price go up. But then I went down that rabbit hole. I really started to go down that rabbit hole. Once you start going down that rabbit hole, it not only opens up financial curiosity thing, it opens so many other rabbit holes going down there, and starting to ask questions, and starting to question things. That's one thing that we are not really taught as in a wide array, is to question. I was always taught growing up is to question, not question everything like you being like defensive or anything like that, but just question like why. And when you start to question everything, then you make yourself really start doing research. And I taught myself all of this. Like, I'm an autodidact. So I really just honed in. Once I went down that rabbit hole, I'm like, oh, okay, this is because of this. And then I'll have to read on this. I have to learn about this in order to understand this more, and understand this more to understand that more. So, like you said, it's just a matter of wanting to learn it, and then once you're learning it, then you'll get a better understanding as to why you should invest in it, as opposed to just number go up. Of course, we all want to make money. We wouldn't be in it if we don't want to make money. But like you said, it's why are we
Yeah.
doing this?
And to touch on it for anyone who's still dealing with that question, it's like we really have to, for me rather, what I asked myself was like why I heard about Ethereum. Right. And once I heard about Ethereum, I'm like, okay, so there's a Bitcoin and there's an Ethereum.
Yeah.
At this point, there's, in my mind, there's a new class of something that exists here, not asset class. I didn't know any of that. I'm just like, in my mind, that this is a thing that's occurring. So at that point, I'm going to have to investigate and figure out what exactly is this? Because the numbers do go up and down. And so that means that it matters, right? Just that alone means it matters.
Right.
And then it's like, but why on earth would there be this thing called a Bitcoin and Ethereum that very few people are talking about, but that in my life, it happened to be that a venture capitalist was talking about it. So yeah, that's going to put a little extra fire in you as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, nowadays you got banks talking about it. You got Larry Fink talking about it. You were talking about earlier. And so it's like, at that point, when governments are signing laws around all of this infrastructure, like, you gotta really, really dig deep and see what's going on, because that limited supply, right, means that there's also only so much time that you have to actually figure this out and be able to take advantage of it.
Yes, and that's a good segue into my my next point. Has crypto, of course, Bitcoin. We'll talk about the overall scope of crypto. With a focus on Bitcoin, has it been infiltrated and taken over? So, how long? I made a video about this maybe about a month or two ago. How long do you think we have in crypto in order to take full advantage of the market and of this asset class?
Yeah, I like to listen to Raoul Pal on that.
Yeah.
His whole thing is we have the economic singularity coming in 2030,
Yeah.
right? And I imagine that timeline it makes sense to me. I mean, I think you got another cycle. If we get another cycle, and then at that point, it's pretty much over, just based upon where we're seeing the institutions move, where we're seeing the United States government move to where they're at speed running through this right now. Like, so it's going to feel like it's happening right now, but it's not yet. I don't think, personally, I think we've got that next 4 or 5 years, and then you're going to see stuff start to get really serious. One of the things that I think happened a while ago that we didn't necessarily pay that much attention to has been the mining situation. There was a weird thing, I think it was during the previous Trump administration, where they kind of like went all in on mining in Texas and like built out these mega mining facilities and stuff like that. And
Yep.
in reality, once that happened, once you saw like the government essentially almost investing in Bitcoin mining, like
Yeah,
that turned the tables.
yeah,
Um, there's this huge concentration of mining pools in the Bitcoin network, and it's another thing people don't like to talk about, but there's about like a handful of miners that control a
yeah,
very large portion of the hashing power on the network. And in that regard, there's already hmm, a hold that large institutions kind of have on this network, and that could be devastating too.
yeah. It was just I think it was a couple days ago. So 51%. It was two companies, two that owned, I think 51% of all the mining. I think this was just happened maybe a couple days ago. I saw it over on X, and then I did some due diligence. And this is I don't. It's not something that's I'm worried about or concerned about, but it is something to talk about. You always have to talk about this. You always have to talk about the good. You have to talk about the bad. But it is something that theoretically could be done if entities get together and try to do this 51% attack, so to say. So I don't think it's something that I'm too concerned about, because it's not in their best interest, and especially not with governments and things like that. You'll get they'll come after you probably if you did that, unless it was a government to try to do it.
Exactly. And now but that's the question, right? Because there's two sides to it, and I looked a little bit at some of the stuff you're talking about there too. I didn't dig super deep into it,
Yeah,
but there was a comment that I saw that was like, okay, but it's not in their best interest if they're a minor, but when you have a concentration of the power, then you could have an outside actor that gets access, right,
yes,
to these two different systems of just two, right? And now you can have that 51% attack from someone who is on the outside of that
yeah,
equation.
exactly.
Um, and then on the money side, right? Because that's the beauty of all of this stuff. It's like it's all incentive based mechanisms.
Yeah,
And so with that being said, there's a political aspect to all of this. And if a nation state has a mission critical reason for why they would want to see the Bitcoin network go down or see transactions be reversed or whatever, meaning that lives are on the line. When I say mission critical, or the fabric of society is on the line, then maybe it could be worth it to spend any resources to get access not to the whole blockchain, but rather just to the two miners that
yeah,
make up that 51%. And so in that scenario, who knows what could happen. And I think that although the Bitcoin network is strong and how it exists today is fantastic, there are drawbacks to having the possibility of a 51% attack when you have other types of consensus mechanisms that simply don't have that problem, you know.
yeah. Very true, man. Very true. And I don't want to get too bearish right now. I feel like this is a good day. We want to continue. We don't want to set anybody aside thinking about Bitcoin can get hacked. But I mean, anything is possible. Anything is possible within the realm of humanity. We get smarter, and then computers are getting smarter. AI is getting smarter. So we'll talk about AI a little bit towards the end. But it's definitely one thing that I preach to my audience, the cool kids, is we want to make sure we always weigh our options and weigh each scenario, good or bad. Good or bad. It's all a risk. Everything is a risk. It's a calculated risk. You want to take the best risk for you, not because somebody talked about it on the internet, not because somebody, your friends or family talked about it, but for you. It's all a risk. It's just higher risk and lower risk, and then you choose. So that's definitely something that's been on my mind, especially this week once I saw that article. But I'm not worried about it, and I think the network will be fine. There's no incentives. Nobody's incentivized to do anything like that. So I think we'll be fine. And I think I want to talk about. You talked about governments and things like that. I want to go into like the macro, and one thing that has been happening over the past, I say month or so. We had a lot of bills come in with stable coins, crypto. We had the Genius Act, the Clarity Act. I think it was the anti-CBDC Act that came in. Seems like stable coins, and I kind of had a hunch that stable coins were kind of going to be the on ramp to crypto. Stable coins right now. You made a good video about this, talking about kind of like beware of stable coins with governments and things like that. I want to talk about that. What do you think, for those who don't know, who haven't watched you before, what do you think is going on with these stable coins? And then we can, if you can, bring in how the bond market plays into this as well. And is crypto
Mhm.
saving America? I want to talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it's all about. And it's cool because it's been said out loud now. It before it was kind of just people were speculating and saying, "Oh, well, this kind of helps support the bond market." But now that Scott Bessent, I believe David Sachs, has come out and said, actually, we're doing this to support the dominance of the dollar. So
Yeah,
uh, the whole way that this is working is that people who are using stable coins, whenever you buy or acquire a stable coin, that stable coin must be backed 1 to 1 with short-term dollars or short-term treasuries rather. And so with that, any demand that's coming into stable coins is going to be demand for short-term US treasuries. And so essentially what has been happening over the past few years, over the past decade or so, has been the declining demand for US treasuries. And so this could potentially provide a little bit of an incentive, or rather support for short-term treasuries in the United States, while other nation states don't really want them. And the key thing here is that whether other nations want them or not, whether other nations want U.S. treasuries or not, is not as important anymore when you have a stable coin, because now with a stable coin, these citizens, right, any
yeah,
individual can actually get access to dollars and therefore access essentially to treasuries through these stablecoin issuers. And because of that, now there is this global permissionless demand for US treasuries, and that changes the game for sure.
that definitely changes the game. And that just goes, it all ties into as to what's going on with the dollar, what's going on with the government, the infinite money printing that you talked about a little bit earlier. And I'll ask you this: do you think the U.S. is at a point of no return when it comes to paying off debt, our interest, things like that? Do you think is something that we can steadily work on? Is the administration with the tariffs and things, are they steadily working on it, or is this something that they're just going to keep kicking the can down the road, and at some point we will, or the chickens will come home to roost? What do you think about that?
I imagine that there's some escape hatch here. There has to be, like there has to be some out, because otherwise you can't fix this problem. The decisions were made a while ago,
Yeah,
and it messed us all up. So at this point, either we continue the way that it is and nothing happens, or we make a shift to potentially a new order here, which has happened over and over again throughout history. When we look at the 70s, when we had the Bretton Woods Agreement and the ending of that, and so on, we see these monetary regimes shift. And the way that it looks so far is that we might need something like that. You obviously see the BRICS nations trying to collaborate to create a situation like that. We've had the International Monetary Fund that had this essentially failure of an experiment. You could call it that, of the SDR and things like that. The special drawing rights from the International Monetary Fund. And so, at the end of the day, what's funny about this is like it's all one big experiment is what it comes
yeah,
down to,
yeah,
and we're just kind of playing the game, and they're getting the data and they're figuring out what's going to work and what's not. And so um, I think that's what it is. And maybe we move into a new experiment. And quite frankly, the way that it looks, honestly, I apparently say that all the time, uh, is that I'm seeing crypto, blockchain, distributed ledger technology as definitely a way to design a system that is bespoke to whatever it is that you want to see happen. So, I think it will play a big role in how we actually solve this debt problem for sure.
yeah, definitely. I think it's some. I think they come out like, even with the Federal Reserve, they always talking about we'll have to see what happens. We'll have to see what happens. This is basically what they've been saying over the past 2 years. We're data dependent. We're data dependent. So I don't think they, in the short term, yes, they are kind of data dependent, but like you said, long term, I think they have some type of playbook, something up their sleeve. I don't think they're just winging it, so to say. I think, like you said, crypto, blockchain. I feel like this is the base that they're creating with these stable coins, getting all these stable coin things passed, implementing stable coins, being so crypto friendly. I do think crypto and blockchain will play an integral role in the future of money, dollars fiat and crypto assets. So that is something that we will be watching over over the next 5 to 10 years. And I do think, just me personally, I do think I'm looking around 2030. That's what I'm looking at. Like you said, I'm kind of aligned with Rob Powell when it comes to that 2030-ish time frame. I think that's when things will really start to get a little bit rocky. I think the wealth gap between now and then is going to just widen drastically. I think crypto. This is why I'm in crypto, and I'll segue it back to you. I think crypto is the fastest vehicle in the garage, so to say, to get to where we need to be in the right cryptos. We have to. It is so many, but we'll talk about that in a second. Crypto is the fastest vehicle to me to, of course, make money, but also to combat a failing system. It hasn't failed, but it is. Well, I mean, you could say it's failed. The way the dollar is declining, or it could be all by design. We don't know. We're not in those closed rooms. We're not behind those closed doors. So that's why I'm in crypto. I do like to diversify a little bit more as I get more and more money into out of crypto. I do diversify a little bit, but for the most part, I'm mainly Bitcoin, mainly crypto. Bitcoin, XRP are my long-term holdings. I know that's a debate that everybody wants to fight about, but I'm primarily Bitcoin. I do hold Ethereum, but long-term, I'm really into Bitcoin and XRP. So, like you said, I second your sentiment when it comes to. I think there's a bigger play at hand. I don't think they have no clue as to what's going on. And I do think crypto and blockchain will play a integral role in that in the advancement, whatever it may be. And speaking of advancements and things like that, you talk about AI a lot on your channel. And
Mhm.
we can integrate the wealth gap as well, like crypto, blockchain, all these other things. The wealth gap. This is one of the ways that we can shorten or the length of the wealth gap. But AI, how do you think AI is going to play a part? Number one, in crypto, and then number two, in how the wealth gap either shrinks or widens. I want to get your views on that.
Yes. So the way that I look at the future of all of this technology and the wealth gap and so on is that honestly, I think that there's going to be so much wealth that is generated through AI and crypto that yes, the gap will get I think it'll get exponentially worse.
Yeah.
But because there's going to be so much wealth that's created from it, everyone's just going to be in a better nominal position. Right.
Mhm.
So people won't they won't care. They won't be mad. Right. If there's helicopter money coming out here and there and you're getting paid or however the money trickles down, if it were to do so, then people will be in a better position than they were in the past couple of years. They'll have food, they'll have, nicer things and so on. And as long as money continues to circulate around in the economy, and that's going to be something that's super important about crypto, as well as having these mechanisms in place for people to borrow off of that crypto, because otherwise it doesn't work. Because otherwise, if crypto is like the apex asset and you should never sell it, then people won't sell it and it'll just sit, right? But for us to get that capital to circulate, then we're going to have ways to borrow off of that crypto more effectively. And when that happens, right now
Yeah.
you have this flood of money that can come into the system and that can hopefully be used to help make people's lives better. Um, Now I think first off, it plays an integral role in making sure that crypto has that it can do what it can at its maximum possibility, right? So being able to have not only just artificial intelligence, but agentic, right? Artificial intelligence that can utilize its own currencies, right? Through crypto, essentially, and have that. The only way for AI agents to be agentic with money would be to have some sort of a digital first system like a blockchain where you have verified information that can be used, that can't be rolled back, and then from there, these AI agents can transact with one another and hopefully do things for us that help to make our lives better. So it's a lot of different things kind of that I'm trying to float around there, but I mean it's so intertwined. I think in the future of how blockchain and crypto becomes it gets utilized to its maximum capacity is going to be through AI and that use of AI in smart contracts and in the back end of the infrastructure of everything.
Definitely, definitely. You said a good point earlier. You said well, I'll say this. When it comes to the wealth gap and AI and crypto, everything like that, I think it is going to exponentially widen, but I think there's never been a better time to be on the right side of that. Like we have access to so many tools with crypto, with AI, in order to better our lives, in order to like I said, be on the right side of that wealth gap widening. So I know you said you went and talked to kids and tried to get them into the financial literacies, trying to open their eyes, open their minds, and things like that. How do you bring the point home that because when you look at the internet, I'm gonna just we can keep it frank. When you look at the internet, you go on the internet, doom sales. You doom scroll, you see people like, I can't afford this, I can't afford that, my job is not paying enough, I don't have this, I don't have that. But on the flip side of things, like I said, this is the most informationally easy, accessible time in history. So, how do you bring that point home to people who are, not saying that they're complaining because, a lot of people just don't know. I didn't know at one point. How do you bring the point home to where, okay, this time is the best time that you can figure it out and be on the right side of that wealth gap? How do you bring that point home? Not only on YouTube, but just talking to somebody on a day-to-day basis if they do, come to ask you questions. And I know you have a Patreon link will be in the pinned comments. How do you come if somebody wants to do a one-on-one? I want to hear your pitch, I don't want to get too deep into it because I know that's your side, but how would you bring that out to tell people about this time and this is the time to really take advantage?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all comes back down to the internet itself for me. I think we have so many people who haven't fully grasped the power of the internet itself and how it allows anyone from anywhere in the world to have access to information, to start a business, and now to have access to financial services, right? In ways that have been denied from people for, I mean, forever, you know. so to to recognize that was the turning point was when information itself, right, could flow in a way that could not prevent anyone from accessing the information, right? That was when everything changed. And now we're playing in a world where we have a limited amount of units that may be able to essentially track the value of the internet.
Yeah.
And so the importance of grasping that part of it and participating, even if it's just a little bit, you know, is paramount. It's
Yeah.
just what we would do is I would set up wallets for kids. I was doing this with the Near Foundation at the time, and they could download a wallet and it would have some Near tokens in it. And from there, right, they could stake them and like just start playing around with this stuff. And I think that's the most important thing is just tinker with it. Because another thing is this, right? Like we had all these airdrops. So just for tinkering, right, you might get paid for just
Yeah.
tinkering around with these protocols. And so, when we move into this world here, like imagine we have that at like a global scale, where if you download the wallet and you use the wallet, all of a sudden you get a huge airdrop. So, you know, there's just so many different ways to participate financially that's why I think it's really important to just tap in and try to learn as much as you can.
Yeah, yeah. And I was on X the day before yesterday and just anywhere on the internet. And I want to pick your brain on this just on a personal level. A lot of people they come on the internet, you don't do it, so I can ask you. They come on the internet and they say, well, 500 into Bitcoin every month, 200 into this every month, 10 years you can retire. Like it's just that easy. Like number one, we have to unlearn a lot of things that we think about money. We have to learn what is money? How does money work? What is going on? Like a lot of people don't even have that groundwork in order to fathom putting 500 into like where I'm from. If I had an extra 500, I'm going out or I'm buying something. When I was younger, I'm going to buy some shoes. I'm going to buy some J's, some Jordan, anything. Put it in Bitcoin. Like I couldn't even fathom that. I couldn't even fathom taking my hard-earned $500 and putting into something that I don't know for sure is going to appreciate, or I don't know for sure isn't going to zero tomorrow. That's something that I've been trying to preach a lot over the past few years. Is that of course we talked about this a little bit earlier during doing homework and doing due diligence, but getting them to do the homework, getting them to do the due diligence, it's like a unlearned thing that we have to do first. Like, do you agree with that? Is that something that you try to preach to your community as well?
Yeah. I talked to a man named Rob Boyd a few years ago, and he runs this company called Empathy. And this is an interview on YouTube, and it's a financial literacy company. It's online and stuff like that. And essentially, what he was saying was something very similar to what you just said about how we have to start with those value systems and with the things that
Yes.
need to be unlearned first, and then we can go on and try to teach and so forth. Um, and I when I was going to some of these schools, I had a young kid. He came up to me one day and he said, "What kind of car do you drive?" Right, was the question that he asked me, and I was devastated. I was just like struck. I was like, "Oh man, like that is not the question that you should be asking me right now." And
Yeah.
I tried my best to try to like figure out, why are you asking me that question? Because what does that mean to you?
Yeah.
And I don't remember the rest of the conversation, but I do remember that, and I was just so sad, because that value system, right? And it wasn't his fault, right? Obviously, he grew up in an environment where that was what signified wealth or success or whatever, and so yeah, we have to unlearn those types of things and understand what money really is. How can you use it before you're right? We can start investing it or trying to find ways to use it. No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good thing that you brought that up. It makes me think of similar situations happen when we get on the internet and talk about finance. Our community, we look for what does he got? What does he drive? Like you said, what kind of house does he live in? What kind of watches does he have? Things like that. Those are learned traits or learned thoughts that we just grew up in our environment. I used to think like that too. If I saw somebody trying to tell me about some stocks or some Bitcoin, the first thing I'm gonna ask him, or I used to, like, I want to see what kind of car he got. Like that was like the pinnacle of success, or that's the gauge of if he knows what he's talking about or not. What I like about not only you, other creators that are coming out, we don't have to show anything. We don't. We're knowledgeable. We try to give it to you in an easy, digestible tone, and a lot of people are starting to gravitate towards that too. Do you think that's something that more people are starting to gravitate towards, rather than like the Forex bros coming on with all these Lamborghinis and things like that? No shade to them, but that used to seem like that was the way to get noticed, or that was the way to like say, hey guys, look at me, and then give the knowledge. I feel like that barrier is starting to come down. Do you feel like that as well?
I would say my channel would have to be a living example of it.
Yeah.
Um, because yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's played out. Like everyone's
Yes.
done it, and so at that point, if you don't have incredible substance on top of that, then it doesn't matter anyway. Um, and a lot of the times there isn't that much substance, and whether it's because they don't have it to share or whether they're not sharing it, that up to them to figure that out. But but yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I think in general, yes, over the internet, we're seeing this move towards this desire for authenticity, and you can see that in some of my videos. I talked about how I lost a bunch of money, and that did very well, and people just love to see and hear real stories from real people about the struggles, and that's relatable. Coming on there with a Lamborghini, I mean, how many people have a Lamborghini? That's not relatable, and
Yeah.
so I think that's kind of also a bit of what it comes down to as well.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and speaking about the channel, man, what's happening new with Keith D? Are you just gonna just continue to pump out all that alpha, or what are you seeing for your channel? Are you trying to branch off into other things? I know you have Patreon. I know you have teaching communities and things like that. What's new in the world of Keith D? What do you have coming up in the pipeline?
Yeah,
And
so
I wanted you heard it here first. I want it here first. So let me know what's going on.
yes. So the truth is that I'm actually building out something really, really special. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to essentially ask the community exactly what they want to see out of it. But I am working on something unique that will help people get a better grasp on what's happening in the crypto space from the institutional level and how to get involved. So that's kind of what I'm working on. It's going to be something to help individuals as well as the people that are a little bit more serious about making sure that they get involved. How do they set themselves up and fully take advantage of what's happening? So yeah, that's kind of the direction that I'm going to move in. But with the content, as far as that goes, I'm still figuring it out. It's like I'm very early in the process. It's like, yeah, I've gotten a big jump, but a lot of it was different things that have done well. So I'm still trying to figure out exactly who my core audience is and how I can provide value.
Okay. Well, yeah, man. Like I said, man, you got a fan here. Everybody that I send over to you, they like, thanks, man. This guy knows his stuff. I love this guy. This that. So anytime I like I told you earlier before we started, like I'm knowledgeable, but when it comes to bringing it down, bringing it home, and I can't explain something, I'm sending them your way, man. I'm gonna send them your way because you, like I said earlier, you bringing it out in a way that's very understandable. Sometimes, like even things that I knew the way you brought it out, I'm like, dang, I didn't know that. I knew it, but I didn't know it like that. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you. I know everybody appreciates you. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
You know, I love the learning process because it comes down to we're going to continue to learn the things that we know even better. And when you can stay humble enough to as well, like kudos to say that, like, hey, I haven't thought about it in this particular angle, or at least it didn't
Yeah.
resonate in that way. And it's all about just like continuing to digest information until it resonates, right? Until it really, really hits. And so yeah, and like a lot of my channel, there's a lot of really intelligent people that know much more than me. And they'll still tap in, they'll still tune in, whether it's to confirm the ideas that they have, or whether it's to kind of
Yeah.
deepen their understanding or feel like they can explain it better.
Yeah.
It's like people say like you haven't learned it until you can tell it to a 2-year-old or 5-year-old, whatever,
Yeah.
right? And so I think I really believe in that. And even as I'm creating my content, I'm just be honest, I will watch my stuff as well and make sure that I'm fully grasping like all of the stuff that I'm saying and why it's resonating with people. So you know, yeah, man, I
Yeah.
love that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, no problem, man. And like I said, all his information will be down in the description below. Make sure you guys go and give Keith D a subscribe if you haven't given him a subscription. I just wanted to get to you before you got too big, man. Before you didn't have time. So, like I said earlier, I appreciate you. Anything you need, I'll be here. Love that you are coming on the channel and coming on other people's channels. I saw the other interview, which was very good, and I said I got to get this guy on my channel. As soon as I think it was like the third or fourth video that I saw you, I think I DM'd you on X or something. I'm like, bro, you got to get
Yeah,
on the channel. You got
yeah.
to get on the channel, like because my community needs it. My community is anxious for somebody to come on and really bring it home in a digestible way. So we appreciate it, man. Thank you for coming on.
I appreciate everything you're doing, man. I checked out your channel and I was like, this guy knows his stuff and he's talking about it in a way that is good for people. So what you're doing is awesome, man. Keep it up.
Appreciate it, man. And cool kids, man. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. Like I said, shout out to Keith D for coming on. We will have a lot more coming up in the pipeline this week. Make sure, like I said, you go and subscribe, go and follow him over on X. Everything will be down in the description. Any last words before we get out of here, Keith?
Stay blessed. Stay
Stay,
blessed.
stay. You know what? Before we get out of here, you did say something. Somebody asked you, like, I can't remember. It was the intro to the interview, and it was just like a moment of silence. You said something that was very. What did you say? He asked you something, and it
Yeah.
was just like,
It was like how you doing today or something. And I tell people, I say today's the best day of my life.
yeah. And then
And then they
it
ask
was just a
why.
moment of
And
silence, and it was like,
yeah,
why? And you said, because I woke up or something like that. And
yeah,
I
yeah,
love that,
yeah.
man. I've been using that as well, man. So I appreciate that as well. Get out of here, man. Appreciate you, Keith. Cool kids. I'll see you in a second. Peace.
Peace.